Joining me now for reaction to all of this breaking news is a member of the Virginia House of Delegates, Jason Miyares. All right, good evening, Representative Miyares. Is there anything new that we should know about what's going on the ground in Charlottesville?
No, other than the fact that right now you have a mom or dad that's lost a son and a child and a daughter. And I think today was the absolute, some of the worst that we've seen in America, and at the same time the best in our law enforcement that were there. But, you know, hearing the governor's words, it reminds me a little bit of Ronald Reagan's first inaugural, where he said, how can we claim to love our country if we don't first love our fellow countrymen? You know, that's not what was on display today, and it really just breaks my heart to see Charlottesville go through this. My understanding is that there has been a curfew imposed, or at the very least, the right of the police to the right to already impose a curfew if it isn't already done. But let me ask you this, Representative. I mean, this is your area. How does this? People have been saying that these individuals are not from the area. Upwards of 90% or more not from the area. And this James Alex Fields, who's been charged with murder along with malicious wounding and a hit and run, he's actually from Ohio. Does this make sense to you? No, well, it's clear that the white supremacists showed up in Virginia to basically create mayhem and mischief, and in this case, murder. And I understand that David Duke, made some comments as well. And I think that's exactly what these people want. They want these fringe groups that are on the far, far outer rims of society to get all this media attention. In this case, they killed to do it. And I think it's utterly heartbreaking. What's so heartbreaking about this as well is the fact that at the end of the day, we're fundamentally a good and decent country. Yeah. We are the most successful multi-ethnic, multiracial society in the history of the world. But what these people want to do is they want to put their evil, twisted ideology as the face of what America is. And that's not what Americans are. That's not how we lived our life. And I think what's finally the most ironic thing is in the hometown of Charlottesville, where Thomas Jefferson made those words that all men are created equal, what we saw today are individuals that clearly don't believe that, to tragic consequences. And, other than the prosecution of these individuals, and right now there's only one individual under arrest, and the charges that I've outlined, I'm sure, will be increased many times. What do we do? I mean, there is a First Amendment right to protest, and we've seen some protests on the West Coast where there'll be 12 hours of destroying buildings and trying to burn buildings, and one person is arrested after 12 hours. I mean, what do we do now? How do we get out of this? Well, we've always tried to find that balance. I mean, as several of your commentators previously have said, you don't have a right to go in the movie theater and shout fire. You can't incite a riot. I think Ed Gillespie put it well. He says you may have a right to say something, but that doesn't make it right. Our First Amendment protects speech that we disagree with, some speech we find absolutely deplorable and reprehensible. The problem is once you take your First Amendment right, your free speech right, and in this case you intentionally try to harm others, incite a riot, or in this case you take a further step and you take a vehicle and you turn it into a weapon. And as a former prosecutor, I fully anticipate that the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office in Charlottesville is going to be adding additional charges on this as more facts come alight. What's interesting, Representative, is that the two state troopers who were killed in the helicopter crash, I'm curious as to whether or not you think there can be a nexus in terms of prosecution to the individuals on the ground, at least those where we can prove intent, where, we can prosecute them additionally for those deaths. It all depends on the facts of the ground. Right now, I have not seen anything that says they could charge this individual with the deaths of those state troopers. I mean, what happened today is everybody in law enforcement's one of their worst nightmares. To be outnumbered essentially 10-1, to try to control two mobs that are essentially intent on causing harm towards the other. I think in Virginia, that's not the Virginia way. Our brave men and women did the very best that was called upon them. Tragically, two of them lost their lives today. But right now, I caution everybody not to rush to judgment. The prosecutor's office in Charlottesville will look at the facts. They will find, if they're able to charge this individual, I'm sure they will try to charge him to the fullest extent of the law for his deplorable act.
All right, Representative Virginia State Delegate Jason Miyares, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
All right. And more reaction to today's